practices. Our glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam reading. It is Conable. Thank you for joining this morning. We will read text 28 of chapter 2, canto 2. We will begin with the prayers before reciting the verse. So we'll be able to understand this unfathomable description of the cosmic manifestation, and very amazing and just otherworldly description of Srila Prabhupada's purport. I need a lot of prayers for me to understand this, as I read through just once, I couldn't understand anything. So yeah, let's all pray to our dear spiritual masters and Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, and to Lord Chaitanya. If they so desire, let this verse or the purport, whatever we need to hear from this, let it touch our hearts, and for us to take one more step closer to Krishna, and not just read it as some philosophy or, just going beyond our head. Om Agnanatimira Andhasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sva Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadanditam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namavom Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chinasmrite Ismin Dushkaram Sukharam Bhave, Vismrite Viparitam Va, Shri Chaitanyam Namamitam. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam, Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, welcome again. So this is continuing the discussion of this Krama Mukti, or the gradual liberation of the attached yogi in this section. This is text 28. Tato visesham pratipatya nirbhayas tenatmanapo nalamurtiratvaran jyotirmayo vayumupetya kale Vavyatmanakam Brihadatmalingam. I'll read one more time. Tato Visesham Pratipadya Nirbhayas Tenatmanapo Nalamurtiratvaran Jyotirmayo Vayumupetya Kale Vavyatmanakam brihadatmalingam. Word to word. Ataha, thereafter. Vishesham, particularly. Pratipadya, by obtaining. Nirbhaya, without any doubt. Tena, by that. Atmana, pure self. Apaha, water. Anala, fire. Murti, forms. Atvaran, by surpassing. Jyotirmaya, effulgent. Vayum, atmosphere. Upetya, having reached there. Kale, in due course of time. Vayu, air. Atmana, by the self. Kam, ethereal. Brihad, great. Atmalingam, the real form of the self. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After reaching Satyaloka, the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated fearlessly by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of the gross body. And one after another, he gradually attains stages of existence from earthly to watery, fiery, glowing, and airy until he reaches the ethereal stage. We'll read one more time. After reaching Satyaloka, the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated fearlessly by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of the gross body. And one after another, he gradually attains stages of existence from earthly to watery, fiery, glowing, and airy until he reaches the ethereal stage. It was interesting to see Prabhupada is translating this as the devotee's journey. But if you remember the section, it's actually talking about the attached yogi. As I was trying to understand, Shukadeva Goswami is actually going further after this description. He is actually going to talk about the perfection of devotional service. So Prabhupada is actually connecting to this section to where it's leading to. And that's why my understanding is he is referring to the devotee, referring to the person who is going through this gradual liberation as a devotee himself. And obviously, of course, they have gone through so much of these layers, and they're like almost at the not almost, they are actually at the topmost of the material world. So in a sense, they are very, very elevated. So I think in that sense, it's apt. I was like, why Prabhupada is bringing devotee here? I was thinking, so that's what I was understanding. Purport: anyone who can reach Brahmaloka or Satyaloka by dint of spiritual perfection and practice is qualified to attain 3 different types of perfection. So anyone can reach this Brahmaloka either by practice and perfection of spiritual methods, like various yogas that we have aware of. So someone is able to actually go there. Not someone, anyone, if they can really practice to that level. One who has attained a specific planet by dint of pious activities attains places in terms of his comparative pious activities. This is just, we do this activity, you go to this planet and you enjoy this particular kind of, whatever facilities that particular planet has. So that is purely, like, okay, you do this, you get this kind of a thing, the Karma Kandiya section, ritualistic. One who has attained the place by dint of Virat or Hiranyagarbha worship is liberated along with the liberation of Brahma. This was actually interesting because the Virat Rupa or Hiranyagarbha worship, we were saying they can just go to that merging the Brahma Jyoti. I don't know if this is just talking about that liberation, because that is how their worship is. So they have reached Brahmaloka or Satyaloka by that kind of worship of universal form. And once Brahma is liberated, they will also get liberated along with him. But one who attains the place by dint of devotional service is specifically mentioned here. So Prabhupada is actually bringing it completely to devotional service and the devotee here. But one who attains the place by dint of devotional service is specifically mentioned here in relation to how he can penetrate into the different coverings of the universe and thus ultimately disclose his spiritual identity in the absolute atmosphere of supreme existence. So as we hear how the devotional service can qualify one to attain that liberation, much, it's actually amazing, this whole process, how Prabhupada is describing. And the devotee or one who attains this by devotional service, they are actually able to penetrate through these different coverings. It's not like just merging into the Brahmajyoti kind of a liberation, but they're actually able to go back to Godhead through this kind of liberation. So those are the three different destinations one can get from Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. Prabhupada goes on further to describe. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, all the universes are clustered together up and down, and each and every one of them is separately sevenfold covered. So I was trying to imagine this. It's kind of unfathomable. That's what I requested Lingaraj Prabhu to title the discussion today. It's just so unfathomable. It's not even like for us to, it's beyond our mental ability to even visualize this. The watery portion is beyond the sevenfold coverings, and each covering is 10 times more expansive than the previous covering. I was also thinking about this 10 times when I was reading. We hear this is like a mustard seed, and in this whole universe, there are so many planets like that in this whole entire creation. And we also hear it's only 1/4 of the whole creation is actually the material world. And it's just put the, the dimension of our planet or universe to that. So we have this little mustard seed, and then there is sevenfold coverings. I was thinking about this coconut example. I think during our Ishopanishad discussion, we were talking about it. Like coconut, the inner water is there, and then the pulp is there, and then the outer hard shell is there, and then beyond that there is this whatever the fibrous covering is there. Like that, there are actually 7 coverings for each of these universes, what we are seeing, the planets. And then beyond that, it is each covering is 10 times than the previous covering. So the size is actually going expansively. And then like that, there are so many innumerable planets around. The personality of Godhead, who creates all such universes by his breathing period, lies above the cluster of the universes. So I think this one, I'm assuming it's talking about Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who is lying above the waters. The water of the causal ocean is differently situated. Okay, causal ocean, Karanodakashayi Vishnu, that is Mahavishnu. The water of the causal ocean is differently situated than the covering water of the universe. Okay, so this is actually talking about Mahavishnu, who is creating these universes. And then in each universe, actually, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu comes. Yeah, that makes sense. So this is not the water covering, is not the Karana ocean or the causal ocean itself. That is even above. The water that serves as covering for the universe is material, whereas the water of the causal ocean is spiritual. So we have this material covering, which is still part of the material world. And beyond that, the causal ocean is there, which is spiritual. And that's also the boundary between the material world and the spiritual world. As such, the watery covering mentioned herein is considered to be the false egoistic covering of all living entities. And the gradual process of liberation from the material coverings, one after another, as mentioned herein, is the gradual process of being liberated from false egoistic conceptions of material gross body, and then being absorbed in the identification of the subtle body, till the attainment of the pure spiritual body in the absolute realm of the kingdom of God. So this false egoistic or the material coverings are there, and then it's explained how one can surpass each of these coverings one after the other. Gradually, they're getting liberated from each of these coverings. And then once all the gross material coverings are gone, then the subtle covering is there. The subtle identities are there. And then they'll be gradually be cleansed of those subtle identities also, until they reach that pure spiritual existence, where I think in the third canto couple, they talks about this dissolving of the subtle body, and then all it's remaining is just the spiritual body or the spiritual existence in the absolute realm of the kingdom of God. Srila Sridhara Swami confirms that a part of the material nature, after being initiated by the Lord, is known as the Mahatattva. A fractional portion of the Mahatattva is called the false ego. A portion of the ego is the vibration of the sound, and a portion of sound is atmospheric air. A portion of the airy atmosphere is turned into forms, and the forms constitute the power of electricity or heat. Heat produces the smell of the aroma of the earth, and the gross earth is produced by such aroma. And all these combined together constitute the cosmic phenomenon. The extent of the cosmic phenomenon is calculated to be diametrically, both ways, 4 billion miles. 4 billion miles. Then the coverings of the universe begin. The first stratum of the covering is calculated to extend 80 million miles. And the subsequent coverings of the universe are respectively of fire, effulgence, air, and ether, one after another, each extending 10 times further than the previous. The fearless devotee of the Lord penetrates each one of them and ultimately reaches the absolute atmosphere, where everything is of one and the same spiritual identity. This is just like, so spinning to the mind, just this numbers and the expansive nature of this creation. And I was also so amazed to the level of calculation and the details that are available in here by Prabhupada's mercy and the previous Acharya's mercy. They're giving such a detailed description of this phenomena. And I was going, oh my, what do I do with this information? You see, like it's just going beyond my head. And okay, what is the purpose of these verses? I think the other day Balaram Prasad Prabhu was asking, okay, what is this verse is really talking about? How is it going to help us in our bhakti? So as I was reading this 4 billion miles and each of these coverings, 10 times each of that, it's just so, beyond our imagination. And that's actually giving rise to that humility. I think Mohan Lila Prabhu has this beautiful presentation he showed a few times, how we are this little spark and Naperville is this big, and then United States, and then the whole earth, and then the whole planet, and then the universe. If we see in terms of that, the dimension, the comparison, we understand how teeny tiny, almost insignificant we are. And that can actually bring us that humility and that eagerness to be to want to be connected to that Supreme, who is actually, the master and the whole mastermind behind all this creation, which is beyond our thing. And the beauty is we are given that information and also the process to connect to that master. So I was really appreciating this section and these verses in terms of that how it can help us. Chintamani Mathaji last evening, she was describing from the 10th chapter. Yeah, we know God is great, but how great he is when we see how great his activities, how great this creation, what he has created, we can actually, kind of, we cannot in a sense understand, but we can get a grasp of like, wow, that's so amazing, that's so wonderful, that's beyond, whatever we have seen, the wonderful things in this material creation. So that's what I was thinking. It can arouse those feelings of, that awe and reverence, and can really draw our hearts to the Lord, who is, even though so great, he is actually wanting to come and have relationship with each of us. And this fearless devotee. So this was interesting to see. The devotee, Prabhupada is describing here, fearless devotee, because each of these coverings, as we have seen, to earthly, to watery, to fiery, to glowing and airy. Each of these coverings are actually, just imagine this fiery, like the whole thing is so much fire and so much temperature and whatever. The devotee is fearless, and actually they're going through these coverings one after the other, because they're actually on the path to gradual liberation. So they're not fearless. Oh, how am I going to survive here or there? Because when we are in this material realm, we will, when Chicago winter comes, we will buy this jacket, that one, it's the most hot heated car seats, and we are making all these material arrangements. But here, by dint of their spiritual practices and perfection, they're actually able to go through this. By nature, Krishna has given this creation to have this natural arrangements for the devotees to, survive in that kind of atmosphere. Then, so once they go through all these coverings, reaches the absolute atmosphere where everything is of one and the same spiritual identity. Then the devotee enters one of the Vaikuntha planets, where he assumes exactly the same form as the Lord and engages in the loving transcendental service of the Lord. That is the highest perfection of devotional life. Beyond this, there is nothing to be desired or achieved by the perfect yogi. So Prabhupada is beautifully bringing this purport to conclusion, how that is the final goal of this whole process of gradual liberation. Though this is not the last verse in this section where it's talking about this Krama Mukti or gradual liberation, Prabhupada is bringing that awareness, is giving that hope, and where it's all actually is going to end. And I was thinking, this seems like so unfathomable and like, just so far out that we could never, understand, forget about actually practicing and reaching this perfection. But Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada and their Acharya's mercy, they have given us such an easy process. I was actually thinking, every time when I hear about this devotion service is very easy, I'm like, yeah, that's true, but my mind is not fixed on the holy name, and I have so much anarthas, and it doesn't seem so easy. It seems difficult. Why Prabhupada and acharyas and devotees are emphasizing so much? It's so easy. It's the most easiest, most assured path. And as I was reading this verse, I was like, man, this is indeed the easiest process. I mean, just imagine those coverings and what all we have to do. And it's not that straightforward that one, if they start, they will, definitely or assuredly go through this perfection at each and every stage. The devotee has to be so fixed up in their practices and keep moving through that. Whereas for us, even when we waver a little bit here and there in our practices or our enthusiasm or determination, by the mercy of spiritual master and association of wonderful community that we have here in ISKCON Naperville or any other part of the world, by mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have that opportunity that devotees actually pull us up. Even in the times I have this experience, like, okay, I'm actually done. I don't want to chant today, or I don't want to read today. It's like mind is like, so crazy. But still, just you hear a class or call up a devotee and talk to them, or, just think of the spiritual master, what all the blessings and what are all the things that he's actually bestowing on us. It just opens our heart. No, I really want to do this. I want to go back to Krishna. In that sense, it's actually the easiest because we have so much of help around. So I was really appreciating in that sense how we have got this opportunity. And I thought I'll just read quickly. Oh, wow, it's 7:56. Okay. Yeah, from Burjan Prabhu's book, I thought I'll just read this one paragraph. Yeah. Clearly, to escape the material world and return to the spiritual world by the intricate and indirect method of Ashtanga Yoga is extremely difficult. Nevertheless, the process, if followed, will transfer a yogi by the demigod's power upward. Those yogis who are pure transcendentalists, however, are not restricted in their movements and can surpass the material world and journey to the spiritual realm. Still, even though these yogis walk a gradual path, first, the transcendentalist yogi goes to the Vaishvanara planet to be purified. This planet is filled with fire. By the time he arrives, of course, he has already relinquished his gross physical body. His challenge on this planet is to purify his subtle body, his mind, his intelligence, and ultimately his false ego. After that, he must travel along and eventually over the Milky Way, Shishumara, to the exalted Mahaloka and remain there until the end of Brahma's long life. As Brahma's life is ending, the yogi perceives the fire emanating from Anantasesha's mouth and sees the planets being burned to ashes. He then leaves on an aid ship for Satyaloka, Brahmaloka, the highest and most subtle planet of the universe. So that's showing that gradual liberation, how one reaches. And Bhujan Prabhu's explanation is, it is possible, it is a process, but it's not that easy for us Kali Yuga people, especially where we are struggling so much. Forget about, the subtle restrictions or the things that we need to do. Even with our gross body, it's so difficult to control sometimes. We just need so much comforts and so many things that for us to, really we survive. That's how, unfortunately, how we are, the things around us happening. So that is why Lord Chaitanya mentioned Sankirtan Yajna, this chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and practicing devotional service is the most easiest for this age. So we can really understand from this verse how even though this process is mentioned, Shukadeva Goswami is giving to Parikshit Maharaj, knowing that there are different people with different inclinations, and that they can take up this process if one is capable and really want to go through that. But definitely for Kali Yuga, we have this wonderful process of devotion service where we can reach this very directly, the liberation, beyond liberation to Krishna Loka. So with that, I'll conclude. It's already 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining this morning and hearing. If anyone has any quick comment or question, anything that you would like to add, any corrections, kindly share. Okay, if we don't have anything, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Mathaji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
I thank you for I joined a little bit late, but I got the gist of what you're saying. So the liberation perspective, anyway, we are not bothered about the liberation. We all know that after at least reading something. So I was thinking about the thoughts what makes us purify and get back to Godhead. Get back to Godhead is a big word. At least achieve some love for Krishna. That's what important for us, because that's a package. Going back to Godhead, that is definitely a big package, if at all we are doing our services. So for us, since Gauranga Mahaprabhu has taught us to do devotional service very nicely, we need to meditate and pray and pray for devotees, pray for us, that we all need to do a good service for Krishna, which you are all really doing, especially the Sankirtan movement. So one thought came was, there was a bull who was serving Madhvacharya, and then some of his disciples were asking, can I work on your book and write some purports? They said, no, this bull will do it. So that bull was carrying every day a lot of books of Madhvacharya whenever he goes, wherever he goes for preaching. Then the people were thinking, what is this bull who is going to do? Whenever we say anything, Madhvacharya is telling this bull is doing something. How can bull do? So they brought a snake, and then to kill that the bull. Wow. Madhvacharya understood that these people are doing something, which I just heard from Amogila Prabhu, so I'm just sharing. So he said that, what is this? Then Madhvacharya understood, and he said, even though the snake comes and does anything, the bull does nothing happens to the bull. So it happens, it seems, that snake, they brought the snake to kill the bull, and the bull was bitten, but the snake died. Nothing happened to the bull because he was doing services to Madhvacharya. And then in its next life, that bull became a kind of a king, or a person like, and then he transformed into Jayatirtha. Yeah. Because somebody said, are you, the day he was always riding in a horse, and whenever he wants to drink water, he will bend the horse, he will sip the water from the river like a bull. And somebody said, what, are you bull or something? The way you are doing it? Then he immediately remembered his past life, and he became very, very serious about the devotion service. And then and he started the preaching and whatnot. So what I understood is, for us as a Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya in the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sampradaya and Srila Prabhupada, I think what I am thinking is, service is the only thing we can make us go back to Godhead. Right? So, of course, service in the sense, devotion service, even chanting is a service, hearing is a service, and then practically doing service for Krishna and Guru. I think that is what one which takes us back to Godhead. Right? So, if you look at, I know I'm not taking another one time, there was a dream for Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. It seems that Yamadutas came to his dream. Then Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, why are you coming? I was thinking Vishnu Dutas will come. No, it is not you. It's all your disciples. So achieved a lot of karma. So we are taking you back to the Yamaloka. Then he chanted Prabhupada's name, and immediately Prabhupada came. And then said, hey, Yamadutas, you can't do anything. He is my disciple. And he has a lot of other disciples who is actually taking Paradukha Dukhi. So you can't do anything much. Then the Yamadutas went away. That was a dream. So what it means is Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj had the dream of Srila Prabhupada coming and saving him. So that means who is the savior for all of us is a spiritual master. If we do services, then spiritual master is the one who is coming and doing the service, saving us for our eternity. So anyway, gist of it is, what is the purpose of what we do is most important, rather than, others are doing, do I need to do? That's a different issue. But our motive is to serve. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for sharing. And that's a beautiful note, praying to our spiritual master. And sorry, someone has their hand up?
It was Balram Prasad Prabhu only.
By mistake, Mathaji. By mistake.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we can pray to our spiritual masters and Lord Chaitanya for us to contemplate and meditate on the fortune that we have received and continue our devotional service. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Grandra Srimad Bhagavatam. Sorry, Prabhu?
No, Radha Kunj Bihar Prabhu was, I think, unmuted, Mataji.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu.
I think it's 86. It's up to you. I mean, if you have time.
So, yeah, if you Hare Krishna Mataji, if you have time, I want to say something. But
yeah, go ahead, Prabhu. Maybe quickly.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Wonderful discourse. Again, very nice clarity. What was coming to my mind is when you were describing the vastness of the universe, the various layers, and each layer seems to be a journey in itself. I was just remembering Ishopanishad where the Lord is so far away, but He is yet near. And the scientist can go on the spaceship, no matter how long he goes, he's still far away from and this puts those verses into perspective. These are not in one's lifetime. We'll never be able to cover all these distances, unless we have the mercy of the Lord Himself. So I was just comparing it.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for bringing that. If we have to do on our own, forget about it. But Krishna is so kind that He is actually coming, and of course, He is always with us in our heart. And He is also giving that perception that I'm right here. Please turn towards me. Yeah, thank you so much for bringing. So we can all try to meditate and find Krishna and feel Krishna's presence through our day and for next few days as we are preparing for Gaura Purnima. Thank you so much for joining. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grandra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for taking up this was last week and very technical. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.